Production funding for Ruckus has been provided by Fred and Lou Hartwig and viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening. Welcome to Ruckus, our weekly food for thought fight over the news of the day and the trends of the times. I'm Mike Shannon. The Ruckettes join me shortly on our topics tonight. Kansas Democrats fight over branding. There's more fighting about streetcars and when they arrive. And the fight over the minimum wage gets even more complicated, plus roast and toast. But we start with our Newsmaker segment and talk with the city manager of Kansas City, Missouri, Troy Schulte. There's certainly plenty to talk with him about, including how the city manager system differs from other forms of municipal government. Troy Schulte joined the city in 1998, became budget officer in 2003, named acting city manager in late 2010, then gained the title on a permanent basis in May 2011. His name often comes up on Ruckus, but this is his first in-person appearance, and we are glad to welcome City Manager Troy Schulte. Mr. Schulte, welcome.
Thank you.
Let's start with something easy. When will the streetcars get here and when will they start running?
Well, we're going to be giving an update later today to the City Council, but we should start to see our first streetcar arrival after negotiations with our manufacturer in late October. We hope to have them all here, and we're going to try like heck to make sure that they're running as close as we can to that Big 12 tournament.
When were they originally supposed to be?
Original contract had them coming in June. Then the deadline slipped until September, the end of September, which was okay with us because, quite honestly, the system wasn't going to be charged and ready to go until the end of September. So we weren't in a position to test until the end of September anyway. So an October arrival date will allow us to start that testing and hopefully.
Well, there was some real doubt about when they were going to get here. How certain are you now that October is the time?
I won't believe it until I actually park them in our new vehicle maintenance facility. But the conversations with CAF have been very good. We're gonna stay on them, and hopefully they'll deliver, and we can get those streetcars running.
Well, what changed the situation? How did they become able to turn things around?
I think they were starting to see some issues as streetcar systems are built around the country, and if they got a reputation as a company that couldn't meet their delivery timelines, that they were in jeopardy of losing out future sales.
Well,
so Cincinnati and Kansas City.
Yeah, I was going to say Kansas City wasn't alone in this.
Right.
Cincinnati had a similar order and similar problems.
So I think they got the message. They're working with us. So we're going to look for the streetcars at the end of October.
And they should start running, you think, sometime in March?
We need to try to do 300 hours of testing, at least 300 hours of testing before we can run passenger service operation. But if we can get those streetcars and get them up and running, we got a flying chance to do it.
Well, all right, we know that at some point they will start running.
Yes.
Do you think they're going to have a really significant impact on economic development in the downtown, midtown areas?
They already have, and I think it's a conversation of how fast do we have a conversation about moving the streetcar south or east. Obviously, our first attempt to expand that conversation wasn't successful, but we think once residents and visitors see the streetcars up in operation, I think that the mindset will change, and it'll be one of those approaches that people will say, this is a transit activity I want to see in my part of the city. We've already had over $1 billion in projects announced along the streetcar line and more in the pipeline. So it's a definite economic development tool. What our job is to turn a 2.2 mile starter route into a full-fledged alternative transportation system to complement our buses.
And voters rejected the first attempt to do so.
Yes.
So there will be other attempts?
There will be other attempts, and I think we'll try to come back with a plan that makes sense, that builds on that existing, hopefully successful initial operation of that 2.2 mile starter
route. Let's touch on some other areas quickly. The 1% earnings tax goes to the public next April. How critical is passage to the city budget?
Absolutely critical. It's 40% of the city's budget. It funds the vast majority of our public safety operations, police and fire. It's 40% of our general fund, and police and fire, those expenditures cover 75% of the general fund. So without the earnings tax, we would have to come up with significantly different funding streams, such as property taxes or sales taxes, or significantly slash public safety. So it's a critical investment in the city.
Mr. Schulte, we have about 1 minute. From my years in talk radio, interviewing mayors, taking phone calls from listeners, I'm convinced most people in Kansas City don't understand the city manager form. They think the mayor has total control over everything, like he might have in a strong mayor form of government. Can you briefly explain the concept of the manager-council form that exists in Kansas City?
Sure. Under a manager-council form of government, the mayor and the city council set policy, say, well, this is where we want to go, and they hire me, and then I in turn hire the staff to achieve those goals. So I have responsibility for day-to-day operations of city government, but the mayor and city council, who I work for, set the goals and the direction that they want the city to go to.
Council is the board of directors. Yep. You're the CEO.
I'm basically the chief administrative officer and the chief of operations.
Must be a fun job. 13 bosses, right?
Never a dull moment.
All right. That is the Kansas City, Missouri City Manager Troy Schulte. Now let's meet the panel and start a ruckus. Terry Riley is a former city councilman and is now with Transformation Consultants. Gwen Grant is president and CEO of the Urban League in Kansas City. Mary O'Halloran is a media and communications consultant. And Ron Freeman is a former executive director of the Kansas GOP and is now a motivational speaker. The 4 streetcars that will travel the 2 miles of track in downtown Kansas City are already running behind schedule, and the system hasn't even opened for business. The vehicles promised for June are delayed because of manufacturing issues and may not arrive here until October. The Kansas City Star, a booster of the system, is criticizing some other boosters for, quote, harming the credibility of City Hall and the Kansas City Streetcar Authority, especially with people who derisively refer to the toy train project, unquote. That term is often used on the Tony's Kansas City website. So, Terry, is the Star being too critical of the public officials who, after all, have no control over the production of streetcars, first in Spain and later in New York State?
Well, I just had to chuckle a little bit there. The Star, I could really care less about their opinion. The fact of the matter is this. The city sent 2 city officials as of yesterday to talk about this issue in New York. Based upon those conversations, now we hear that October is the due date. No matter where you land on this particular issue, the fact of the matter is we need to get this done. If it's here in October, based upon a 300-hour schedule of practice runs, I believe we will have it together before the Big 12. I hope to see it. It will add additional traffic to our downtown. It will not be as much congestion in downtown, and many of us know how congested it is during the Big 12. And I believe that this could be the start of something pretty big. But if we do this, I believe we need to take the streetcar in many different areas of the city, so that you can have that very diverse ridership and population that we need to sustain the streetcar.
I think the Star was suggesting also, Gwen, that these delays will cause the public to lose confidence in the streetcar system. One delay, another delay, and they're concerned that people won't be that interested in what's going on and will have doubt in what City Hall says about it in the future.
I think they went too far with that. I think that you expect delays with construction projects. You're going to always have delays. And when the streetcar arrives and they get it running, everybody will be happy. They'll forget about the fact that there were delays. And I think, you expect them. What my concern about the delays is that there seems to be some confusion about the communication process in that. But and I think we should have negotiated higher penalties for delays. The $1,000 a day I thought was pretty low. I think if they would have been, had much more of
I think they went to $3,300.
It went up based on, more delays with each car, but it started, the floor was too low.
One factor we're missing is that safety. If you rush the product, you get it here, it breaks down, somebody gets injured, because we didn't take our time to do it the right way. And I think you got to look at that too. You can't say, excuse me, manufacturer, get it done today, if they have safety protocols, they've got to watch out.
Well, manufacturers shouldn't say it'll be there in June if
True.
they can't follow that
True.
protocol.
But if they can't get it there, I'd rather them take the time to do it right.
Mary.
Once they get it here, we'll test it, retest it before we put
Right.
people going from the River Market to Crown Center on the little
Street
But
cars.
our local,
You had
our
a
local
question.
folks can't, how are you going to blame the city council or the city manager or whoever, the transportation people, if the folks who are making the streetcars leave when they're shipping them and they get left on the dock in Spain? I mean, you
agree
can
with
jump up and down all you want, but you're not going to get them here any faster.
I agree with you, Gwen, that it's probably not a huge issue, problem, and we all hope it turns out well. But, we do need the Star and its reporters to, to start to write about this stuff in order to motivate people inside and outside of City Hall to get cracking, get moving, and not stop being so nice.
And Mary,
about
you
all-
can't hide public information. You can't hide it very
Exactly.
long.
Right.
But I know how terribly difficult this must be, negotiating with somebody who's starting out the process in Spain, and they got Cincinnati that we piggybacked on their contract, and then we're making these, they're being constructed in Elmira, New York, and on and on. But I think this has been difficult from the beginning. And I think there is tremendous commitment inside City Hall. I think it'll be
But
terrific.
Ron, do you think there's tremendous commitment on the part of the citizenry? After all, this was passed and brought to fruition in a somewhat unorthodox manner. Only a few hundred people voted on it.
I don't think the citizenry really cares. They're not that invested. I think it's something that could help the city, but it's not a major thing to the average citizen. It's just
Do you
not.
find the reference to toy train funny?
It's kind of cute.
You think it's kind of cute? Do you like it, the toy train concept, the joking about the streetcar system?
I know Tony.
Well, we're not talking about Tony. We're talking about the Appalachian toy train.
I mean, it's funny, it's cute, but the fact of the matter is we need to move this thing forward, get this moving, because as it was mentioned, the earnest tax is coming up.
Yeah.
This will build public confidence that when City Hall speaks, that they will deliver. And once we get this thing on track, it will build a confidence for the public to
So,
come out
Gwen,
and support the
if
earnest
this
tax.
gets to running sometime soon and people like it and write it, we'll forget about these delays.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, yeah, that's what I think,
Okay.
honestly.
It is a welcome change of pace for Kansas Republicans to see Sunflower State Democrats fighting among themselves and not attacking Governor Brownback and GOP state legislators over income tax cuts. The Democratic Party's chairman, Larry Meeker, a former mayor of Lake Quivira, resigned last weekend after harsh criticism of his plan to rebrand the party to broaden its appeal. Fellow Democrats did not take kindly to Meeker's call to move the party rightward and make room for people with varying views on such volatile issues as abortion and same-sex marriage. Meeker believes a rebranded party might gain more electoral success. Do you see any merit in Meeker's views? First Ron, then Mary.
Well, I think you have to rebrand when you're not winning elections. I mean, if you don't, you're going to end up losing elections. I mean, second place in November is no fun. I know about that.
You know about that on several
Yeah.
occasions, don't you?
But you think about the party, what do they stand for? And it's interesting that you hear about the Republican Party being narrow-minded and dogmatic, but the Democrat chairman says we want to change what we're about or get our message to a broader base, and no, we can't. We don't want to be broad. We want to be narrow. And that's really kind of sad.
But can Democrats move rightward and convince people?
Oh, there's a lot
that
of room to
they're
move
serious?
rightward. Well, I think, you know what, when you talk to the average Democrat voter, you'll find a person that is broader than simply narrow-minded issues over here. So, yeah, I think they would appeal. And I think in Kansas, you have to be realistic. There are a lot of Republicans in Kansas. And if you wanted to get that vote, you're going to have to be able to. Kathleen Sebelius, look at what she was able to accomplish in the state, not because she was narrow-minded, but because she did. She made people Republicans. Some feel welcome in what's going on in that party. They don't have that anymore. And therefore, they end up losing year after year.
Mary, what does it mean to rebrand something?
Good question. I think Larry discovered what it doesn't mean. Well, first of all, let me say that Larry's a friend of mine, and I've contributed to his campaign, and I like him a lot. He's such a high-energy, smart, accomplished person. But he, there's the message, and then there's the pleading with the decision makers in a political party that they need to do this. He was absolutely on target. when you have long stretches of losing, you do have to take a look at how you're communicating, not so much within your party, but with the people that you're trying to persuade, with the voters. And he was absolutely on target. The trouble was, Larry took the message with him and said, here's mine, and that particular message didn't sell and shouldn't have. The Democratic Party has core values that are both pertaining to taxes and schools and social issues. And we are the inclusive party. Everybody is a welcome.
Where's that last pro-life Democrat that won a statewide election?
But I don't think that the core value of this party in Kansas is about fairness and education, and it is more moderate than some in the party would like it to be.
Gwen, do you think you can brand a political party? And if so, what's the National Democratic Party's brand?
Well, branding, what I think is he used the word branding when he should have talked more, as Mary said, about messaging. Because when you talk about branding, then you look at, what does that truly mean as it relates to the platform of the party. So that's why if you look at the branding of the Republican Party, you have to connect that to that party's platform and its non-inclusive overall behavior.
Republicans and
had a logo.
Democrats and Democrats.
But what I want to say about this piece about the branding and the marketing, it was more about the message that Kansas Democrats need to have, one of being more in the middle, which I think they're more, and I think that's what he was trying to say, conveying the message that we're not far left or far right, we're more in the middle, which is what Sebelius was, and when she was governor, and she was able to work collaboratively across party lines, and that's what needs to be communicated. But the other thing too is that because Kansas, by voting registered voters, is just far more Republican registered voters. So if you're going to try to pull Republican votes, you have to have a message.
I want to get Terry in here. State Senator David Haley of Kansas City, Kansas. You probably know him. I do. He thinks rebranding is not that bad of an idea. He said, it's just a fact of political life. The Kansas Democratic Party and its core values is more conservative on various issues than the National Democratic Party. Do you think that's fair?
I believe so, but take a look at this. When the Koch brothers came in a few years ago and said that many of the Republicans were not conservative enough, they moved further to the right. And there was a mass, there was a mass clearinghouse of all of the moderate Republicans in Kansas. And so they moved even further to the right. Many of the Democrats were moderate, just like Catherine. But now it's gotten so extreme there, with Brownback.
You think Democrats win an election, right? But they can't win an election.
I want to ask Terry a question.
Yes. Oh my.
Don't you think that Brownback and his friends should rebrand the Republican Party
after they
raised taxes substantially? The tax and spend party.
But the thing is,
what about rebranding Democrats?
We're broke.
They had a scientific project over in Kansas, and that's what I'm going to call it, of this no taxes, and you totally bankrupt all of our school children. That's what you've done. You're taking money away from school children now, and now you're asking people to come to the trial.
To Kansas,
to come to the trial.
Yeah, that's going on.
And now they're asking for you to ask for money that they've taken away.
We got to wrap this up. Ron, give me one-word answers to two questions. What's the brand of the Kansas Republican Party?
Conservatism.
And the brand of the Kansas Democratic Party?
Unknown.
Liberal?
Come on, it's a liberal party.
Well, what is it? One word,
We're the
Mary.
liberal party. We're the
Liberal.
fairness.
So liberal.
We're the fairness party.
Fairness, liberal?
Yeah.
Are they the same thing?
Sure.
They are.
Yeah, we're for equality and education.
Ultra conservative and moderate.
Right.
Ultra moderate?
No, I'm talking about very
Complicated.
One-word answer.
Okay. Complicated is too simple a word to explain what's going on in the minimum wage battle in Kansas City, Missouri. A referendum has been filed to overturn the wage hike to $13 approved by the City Council, and so that is now on hold. An initiative petition campaign to hike the wage to $15 by 2020, once on hold, is now reactivated and may be on the November ballot. But the state legislature holds a veto session next month and may take action that will preclude cities from raising the minimum wage above the level set by the state. So what is going to prevail here? The hike to $13, the increase to $15, or nothing unless it's approved by the state government or state voters? Gwen?
Well, It seems that, you know, the fact of the matter is that the state law does preempt local jurisdictions. So it's looking as though the state legislature will veto the bill, and they do have they have the power to override the governor's, override the governor's veto.
And the bill said that if you did it by August 28th, the city could raise the minimum wage.
Right.
The governor vetoed that, and now the Republicans may override
And they have
that.
and so if they override the governor's veto, nothing's going to happen. That's the bottom line. Now, so is it possible to stop that? In the Senate, no, but there is an effort with the House. There's a less than veto-proof vote, because I think there were 105 votes cast, and they would need 109 to overturn the veto. There were about 4 Republicans who were absent that day of the vote, but if they all show up, then they would have enough to overturn the veto in the House in Missouri. So with that being said, now if they don't overturn the veto and it goes to, it will go on the ballot in November, and I think the $15 would pass. I think there's a much greater public sentiment for raising the minimum wage too, so that it would be $15 by the year
2020. Terry, it seemed very obvious to Gwen and to other people as well that the state precluded cities from raising minimum wages. So why would the city council go ahead and approve an increase in the minimum wage in the last few days of its session?
Well, they were trying to get this done before the legislature made their decision, so that it can be in place beforehand. But now the legislature has said, hey, if you move, we will do something in the veto session. But what I believe, the only way that we're going to be able to do this, if the legislature passes this a law stating that you can't change it, it will have to be a major statewide initiative to get this done.
I think that happened in 2006, didn't it, Mary?
It did, yeah. And it's always been, and Gwen's mentioned this before, how popular the minimum wage is. People don't see it as a terribly partisan issue, although Democrats are more often, Republicans often do not support raises in the minimum wage. But
we do pay really well.
Well, yeah, sure.
I don't know about that one.
I just think the people in Kansas City who are working hard on this issue have done everyone a service who needs a raise, because their pressure on the city has caused the mayor to get more excited about this and caused the legislative world around our city, when they go to Jefferson City, to be very unified, I think, in favor of doing what's right and passing this on a statewide level. I do support a statewide level, because I don't think you should have, $7.85 in Clay County or in up north, and $15 in Kansas City. It doesn't make sense.
We just need to pray that the legislature stops it, because if you do this, you're going to remove entry-level jobs from the people who need them the most.
No. Well, the studies
you know what? If I was going to open McDonald's and I had to pay $7.50 an hour or $7.65 an hour in Kansas and $13 an hour in Missouri, I'm going to Kansas. Common sense. And if you don't think that's true, I mean, how do you figure it's not?
Well, we have a referendum pending on the council's increase to $13 an hour, and then 2 other petition drives that are still under consideration. So
to get up to 50,
it's almost impossible, isn't it, to predict what's going to happen until we know what the state government does.
And that's unfortunate, because the Republicans and the state legislatures, are always talking about, we want state control, we don't want federal intervention.
You want the state to give local governments local control.
But then they want to control local jurisdictions.
Got to go. It's time now. It's time now for Roast and Toast, where the Ruckettes cheer or jeer people and events in the news. And let's start with Gwen.
Well, I'm going to toast the fantastic Kansas City Royals. We have the best baseball team in the American League, in baseball right now. And we have an opportunity, if Kansas City continues down this pathway, for an I-70 World Series, because St. Louis is also the best team in the National League. But the American League won the All-Star game, which means we would have the home field advantage when we go to the World Series this year. Go Royals.
Go, Mary.
Well, how can you beat that? I'm totally addicted to this team, too, Gwen. Well, rather than roast Donald Trump for the way he treats women, his bullying, hostility toward particularly women in the media, I guess today I choose to toast something more positive, and that is Women's Equality Week. Last night at the Kansas City Public Library, Jessica Neuwirth, her book Equal Means Equal, and about 200 women across all kinds of dividing lines gathered to discuss whether or not we ought to start the next round of efforts at the Equal Rights Amendment to amend the Constitution of the United States. It was very positive, and I think that what they were calling for is for Hillary Clinton to lead the way in the second effort for an ERA. It was a great night.
All right, Terry?
Yes, I would like to give a toast to Clyde McQueen and the Full Employment Council because they're doing this new initiative through Secretary Perez, credential-based certification. That will give young people getting out of high school the credentials to go into tech jobs coming right out of high school. I believe this will be great for Kansas City in lieu of all the things that are going on here as it relates to technology. It will give them an opportunity to have a foot up and go right into a good paying job, being able to take care of their families and their children.
Ron?
I'd like to roast Donald Trump for setting up the Republican Party for a huge failure. I mean, think about it, he's offended women, Asians, Latinos. Sorry, Mary, you wouldn't do it, but I have to. And it's become almost a joke in a sense of poster boy for liberalism, right there. That's what they think of Republicans.
All right, and finally, here's a toast to historian H.W. Brands for his magisterial new biography of America's 40th president. The book, Reagan, The Life, covers Ronald Reagan's life from sportscaster to actor to TV host to governor and finally to 8 years as president. Brand calls Reagan one of the two greatest presidents of the 20th century. Mary, the other one is Franklin Roosevelt. If you liked Reagan, you will love this book, so go ahead and read one for the Gipper. And that's Ruckus for this week. Back next Thursday at 7. Now, on behalf of the Ruckettes and crew, Mike Shannon saying thanks for watching and good night.